It is officially draft season now that the NFL season is over. We do have about 2 months until the 2025 NFL draft, and I wanted to do another mock draft with you guys today. But before we get into the combine, I wanted to put a twist on this mock draft. I wanted to make 5 trades that we're going to be doing today that's going to be incorporated in this mock. So we're here on the mock draft simulator, and I'm excited for this today because all my mock drafts with you guys haven't had any trades, but we know that trades could definitely happen leading up to the NFL draft, involving teams trading down, trading up, players could be moved. And yeah, I want to know your guys' opinions about these trades. I don't know if it's going to be the exact picks that would be involved in these deals, but it's just the idea of these deals getting done. So we don't have any trades at number 1. We are going to keep it pretty tame here. And I still have the Tennessee Titans going Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick. I know they've talked about or been in rumors about Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. And while those could be maybe generational talent in Travis Hunter because he can play both sides of the field, or maybe you're getting Abdul Carter, by far the best player in this draft, I just can't see this team passing up on a quarterback, and free agency could change a lot of this, as maybe they do end up with a Justin Fields or a Sam Darnold or a veteran quarterback, and they don't need to take Cam Ward number 1, and they could surround this team with more talent because they could improve almost every aspect of this team with Carter or Hunter. But I still think right now they're going to go Cam Ward unless I'm told otherwise here in free agency if they do add a different veteran quarterback. So at number 2, this is where the first trade is going to be. We are going to have the Las Vegas Raiders leapfrog the New York Giants to take you-know-who. I'll just throw in an additional 2026 first-round pick. There'd probably be more moving pieces in this deal. But yeah, we are going to do this trade, and we are on the clock now with the Las Vegas Raiders, who leapfrog the New York Giants to take a quarterback, and they take Shedeur Sanders. There's a big drop-off after Shedeur in the quarterback tiers here, at least to pick a quarterback this high in the first round. Nobody's taking Jalen Milroe in the top 10. I don't think anybody's taking Jackson Dart in the top 10, let alone at 3. So we are going to have Shedeur Sanders go to the Raiders. And I'm sorry, Giants fans, you are not getting a quarterback in this draft, or at least in this mock draft, because hey, on day 2, you can get Jackson Dart, you can take Will Howard, you can take Dylan Gabriel. We are going to have Travis Hunter go to the Giants. They could use a receiver, they could use a corner, and I know you're not getting your next franchise quarterback, but maybe by this point they could have ended up with a Sam Darnold or a different quarterback that Brian Daboll thinks can succeed in their system. And they get Travis Hunter, who I think is going to end up being like a full-time corner and maybe a gadget type receiver when he gets to the NFL. And hey, him out there with Drew Phillips, that could be a nice corner duo for years to come and just try to improve this defense that already has a good defensive line with Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and Kayvon Thibodeau, and now you're adding just an even better corner out there with Drew Phillips. That is something. So we're on the clock with the Patriots here at number 4. They could get Abdul Carter. They could take Will Campbell. And I think if like Abdul Carter's off the board, they would pivot to Will Campbell to protect Drake May, but we're going to have them just get Abdul Carter. I can't see Abdul Carter falling past the 4th overall pick. You can have him and Keon White on the defense together, and this is one of the worst defensive units in the NFL. And then you have like Christian Gonzalez next year, Christian Barmore fully healthy, and now we got playmakers on the defensive side of the field for the New England Patriots. And I think if they can somehow get Cam and Shedeur and Hunter in the top 3, hey, Abdul Carter is going to be there for them at 4, which I don't think is an unrealistic scenario. Even if Shedeur just normally goes number 3 to the Giants, I guess it's really going to depend on what the Browns do it too. Would they take Travis Hunter? Would they take Abdul Carter or something like that? So we're on the clock with the Jacksonville Jaguars here at number 5. Do not have a trade here. I mean, this is a team that could look to add a corner in Will Johnson. Could they look to add another receiver in Liam Cohen's offense if Christian Kirk is going to get moved this offseason? Gabe Davis, I think, was just kind of a waste of money last offseason. You have a true wide receiver 1 in Brian Thomas Jr. Maybe you think Parker Washington is more of a wide receiver 3, and you can add Ted McMillan, but I think they can go Mason Graham. You get probably the 2nd or 3rd best defensive player in this draft, definitely the best defensive lineman in this draft, not named Abdul Carter, and you can get just kind of a wrecking ball on that defensive interior with Joshua Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. Now you're going to have a legitimate pass rush for next year and years moving forward. So here we go. We got the Browns at number 6. They traded down. They accumulated a future 2026 first-round pick, which honestly for them, I think this is a great move if they can get an additional first for a team trading up for Shedeur Sanders, just because I don't think this team really needs to take Shedeur Sanders this year, and they can have a bridge quarterback in the offseason. Obviously, they're paying so much money to Deshaun Watson next year to play or maybe not to play. They could just look to add a bunch of holes on this team right now. And I think they could look to add Will Campbell, or they could look to add Will Johnson, snag one of the Wills here. And I'm going to have them go Will Campbell, the best offensive lineman in the draft, in my opinion. And I think, you know what? You trade down 4 spots, you take an offensive lineman. It's not sexy by any means. I'm not sure if the fan base will be thrilled about that, but now you're going to have the Vegas first round pick in 2026, which, knowing the Raiders past and looking at that roster, that could still end up being a very good first rounder if Shedeur Sanders is still more of a project play in Vegas. And now in the 26 class, you get 2 first round picks to add to your team, and we are going to have another trade with them a little bit later. So don't worry, they're going to be accumulating more draft capital throughout this video. So next up at number 7, we have the Jets. I normally mock them, Will Johnson. Ted McMillan could make a ton of sense as well, because if Devontae Adams is moved this offseason, because I don't think he's going to be there now that Aaron Rodgers is no longer there, they could look to add another receiver opposite of Garrett Wilson. But the Jets, in my lifetime, have never really had stability at the tight end position. And I'm going to have them go Tyler Warren at number 7. This is the highest I've mocked him yet. I usually mock him number 14 to the Indianapolis Colts, but this could make sense for the Jets. You get somebody that can help you in the run game, but more importantly, you can get another good receiver at the tight end position. And the way the NFL is going, you're not getting a quarterback here at 7, but now you get this vertical threat, or at least this tight end that could be a good receiving threat for you, and that can get you another weapon opposite of Garrett Wilson, other than going a receiver in Ted McMillan. So I think McMillan or Warren could both make sense for the Jets at 7. And I'm starting to really come around on that pick for the Jets at 7 if Warren is there. And I think the odds of him being there are very high. So we're on the clock with the Panthers at 8. I mean, there's 2 options here. There's Ted McMillan and there is Will Johnson. And I know having Will Johnson opposite J.C. Horn could be electric for that Panthers secondary, but I'm going to have them go Ted McMillan. I want to get another receiving option for Bryce Young, because I think that's the most important thing about the Carolina Panthers for the next 2 to 3 years, is continuing to develop Bryce Young. I would like them to maybe even address offensive line a little bit more this offseason as well. And now you have Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker. We'll see if Adam Thielen is going to be back next year. And then you have Ted McMillan, who can hopefully be a true wide receiver 1 for you if you don't end up with like a T. Higgins in the offseason. And I think the odds of that aren't really looking that likely, because 1, I don't even know if he hits the open market. He's probably going to get tagged by the Bengals, and now you'd have to trade for him, then extend him. I think that might be a little bit rich for where the Panthers are asset wise. So at number 9, I think the Saints could have been all in on Ted McMillan as well, just because of Olave's concussion history, and could they look to move him? And then you can get a little bit younger there at that position than Olave, but at least somebody that's on a cost controllable contract moving forward. But I think the way that this draft has fallen, I think Will Johnson is pretty good value for you at 9. You're not going to be great next year, and I think you're just trying to add pieces, especially on the defensive side of the field, where you traded away Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders at the deadline, and you can look to get, maybe, in your opinion, could be the best corner in this draft, if not the second best corner after Travis Hunter. So we're on the clock with the Bears at number 10. I've mocked them Ashton Jeanty in the past, but I think I kind of like them going offensive line here, because they're not going to have an elite running game like Ben Johnson had in Detroit without an elite offensive line. And you hope Darnell Wright can continue to improve. Maybe this team goes after Trey Smith with the Ryan Poles connection in the offseason, but we can get Kelvin Banks. If you want to play him on the exterior, the interior, can give them some options. I think Kelvin Banks makes a little bit more sense at 10 if he's on the board than like an Armin Membu, or potentially going like a Tyler Booker this high at 10, which I've seen mocked semi-recently. So yeah, we're going to have Kelvin Banks go to the Bears there at number 10, and maybe they're going to add a running back on day 2, or it's just a loaded class. Like if this team can somehow get Caleb Johnson on day 2, that could be fun for this team if you're able to add Kelvin Banks there at number 10. So we're on the clock here with the San Francisco 49ers at 11, and I love this pick for them as well, them addressing offensive line and probably getting the next best offensive lineman on the board in Armin Membu from Missouri. This team definitely needs to add some offensive line help, and you have Trent Williams getting up there in age, and we gotta look in the future. We gotta protect Brock Purdy, who's about to get a payday this offseason. So I think Tyler Booker or Armin Membu both in play for the Niners at 11. I wouldn't be honestly opposed to them trading down either if you don't think like Indianapolis or maybe Atlanta would end up going offensive line, and you think one of those guys could be there in the late teens, and you can maybe accumulate a day 2 draft pick. So I would be on the lookout for the Niners doing that. I mocked it a ton, and I'm going to continue to mock it here. Now, I think in my last mock, I did do Ashton Jeanty to the Chicago Bears, but I'm going to have him go here to the Dallas Cowboys at pick 12. Yeah, if just he's on the board there, I think him or James Pierce could make a ton of sense. I mean, Luther Burden may be a bigger need for this team, just looking at the wide receiver 2 spots. If Will Johnson somehow fell to 12, that could be a great pick if they're going to eventually move on from Trayvon Diggs or Deron Bland, because I think they have question marks going forward. Maybe Jerry Jones just falls in love with Benjamin Morrison or Jahdae Barron, and they end up taking a corner if Will Johnson's even off the board, because, hey, you may need a corner a little bit more than a running back, because Rico Dowdle was like fine last year. And I know Ashton Genty can be a difference maker, but if this team doesn't have the pieces around Dak and CD and Micah, I just don't know if Ashton is going to reach his fullest ceiling in Dallas with the way that roster is constructed. So we're on the clock here at 13 with the Miami Dolphins. An interesting team this offseason that I don't know if they're going to make too big of moves. I think offensive line could be in play here if they wanted to go Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, if they wanted to go Tyler Booker out of Alabama. But I've just been mocking it. I like it. I think it makes total sense with the guys that are hitting free agency and them taking Malachi Starks here at 13. So now that Tyler Warren is off the board, I've mocked him every single time to the Indianapolis Colts here at 14. I think they could look at an edge rusher here. I think we could definitely improve the front seven. And most of the guys are on the board after Abdul Carter. You can have your pick of James Pierce, Michael Williams, or Mike Green. And I think Michael Williams has been getting a lot of hype as of late. Somebody that played banged up this year at Georgia. I think this is purely on a potential pick and what he could be in the future, more than so NFL ready pick. And it seems like maybe the Colts have done that in the past, at least with Anthony Richardson. So we're going to add Michael Williams to the Colts there at 14. I think the Falcons would also be in the market for an edge rusher as well, or a corner or a linebacker. If this team wanted to go after potentially a Jahad Campbell or Jalen Walker, I think could also be in play. I don't know if they would go corner here, but maybe they do really like Jahdae Barron or Benjamin Morrison. But I'm going to have them look at edge rusher, and I'm going to have them go James Pierce, who I feel like has just like the widest range of where he can go in the draft right now. Like, he can go as high as like number 8 to the Panthers or number 12 to the Cowboys, but there's a chance he just goes at the end of the first round and maybe he ends up going to like the Packers or the LA Rams or the Ravens, like one of those teams later in the first. So we're on the clock here with the Arizona Cardinals at 16. I think this is a team that could look to add Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. And I've been mocking that a ton, and I still like that pick a ton for the Arizona Cardinals to improve that defensive line. And you could go Walter Nolan as well, who's been getting a lot of steam to go, or a lot of hype to go in the top 16 in this draft. But I still like Kenneth Grant here at 16 to the Cardinals. Now at 17, I think the Bengals could look at Luther Burden, even if they bring back T. Higgins. But no, we got to look at the defensive side of the field after what transpired this past season and how bad this defense was. Now, there's probably not a good enough safety to take here with Malachi Starks off the board. I don't think you're looking at any of these guys specifically at pick 17. So I'm going to have them go corner, and I like Jahdae Barron, at least was just a little bit more available this season than Benjamin Morrison, if you're going to debate between these two specifically. So the Bengals are adding a corner there at number 17. We're on the clock here at 18 with the Seattle Seahawks. I want to add offensive line, and I want to add Tyler Booker on the interior. You can be fine with Charles Cross next year and Abraham Lucas on the exterior, but if Tyler Booker's on the board at 18, he may not even fall here at this point. Like I said, there's a chance he could go, who knows, maybe number 10, maybe number 11, maybe the Dolphins want to take him at 13, but here we are going to take him at number 18 to the Seattle Seahawks. So number 19, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought about this being a trade team as well, but I don't know. I think Chris Godwin's going to go back to Tampa Bay, so I don't know if they would look at Luther Burden here. I think they could look to take Mike Green, the edge rusher, out of Marshall, who's been getting a lot of hype as of late. He killed it in the Senior Bowl, and I'm sure he's going to have a nice combine as well. So we're going to have Mike Green go there. And yeah, I've only had one trade happen so far. So we're going to have 4 trades in these last 12 picks. And we're going to have a trade right here with the Denver Broncos. We are going to have them add a receiver. We're going to have a couple receiver trades right now. And they are going to make a trade with the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not sure how this would be constructed with day 2 picks being involved. If it would be anything more than that, who knows? Maybe Cooper Kupp ends up just getting cut. But here we're basically going to have the Broncos and the Rams swap pick 20 and 26. And the Broncos, with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, they're getting off of the Russell Wilson money, can absorb Cooper Kupp's contract. And the Rams are able to move up 6 spots here at number 20 to take somebody that I think would make a ton of sense for this team. And the Broncos, I mean, maybe... I'm not sure if they would rather just take a receiver here at 20 with who's on the board that I'm going to probably have go to LA. Maybe they would ask for a another day 2 pick or day 3 pick for the Rams if the Rams are able to move up with this guy still on the board. But the Rams don't really have a lot of picks to deal with. So maybe it's like a 2026 round 3 pick, and then you're going to do a swap. Broncos moving down 6 spots. But the main part of this, they are getting Cooper Kupp out there. What? Why is my trade not accepted? Can we okay, let's force this trade. We're going to force this trade. And yeah, Cooper Kupp is going to be a nice veteran option for Sean Payton and Bo Nix in that Denver Broncos offense. And they still get a first round pick there at 26, and they're able to add somebody that is definitely an upgrade over everybody on their team at the receiving position. Maybe not named Cortland Sutton, but at least you have 2 veterans for Bo Nix, and you could still maybe take somebody at 26. So I think if the Rams move up here, they no longer have Cooper Kupp. I mean, I like Jordan Whittington. I like Demarcus Robinson after Puka. And maybe this team looks to add like a Colston Loveland here at 20. If Tyler Higbee isn't going to be there too long, maybe they look to add like a Josh Simmons or an offensive lineman. But I think I'm going to have them... I was going to have them move up to take Luther Burden, but then I'm like, I don't know if the Rams would operate that way. And you know what? I think this team could look to add another corner. Let's have them take Benjamin Morrison here at 20. I think there are some teams, definitely the Pittsburgh Steelers, definitely the Green Bay Packers, and definitely the Minnesota Vikings that could have taken a corner and taken Benjamin Morrison ahead of the Rams at 26. So I think that's realistic that the Rams could try to move up. I mean, they get a corner. You have to absorb the Cooper Kupp money. So maybe they don't end up giving the Broncos a day 2 pick next year. That was just kind of just to see if this deal made any more sense. So the Steelers at 21, I mean, this team desperately needs a corner. They need a quarterback. I'm not having them take Jackson Dart here, and they need a wide receiver. But I think if Luther Burden is on the board at 21, I think if it's Emeka Buka or if it's Luther Burden, the Steelers got to take a receiver for whoever their next quarterback is, because it's George Pickens, Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson if he's brought back. Like, it's just not a good core whatsoever, and I feel like it's just been kind of disappointing for Pat Freiermuth as a receiver. So we have another trade here at 22. I thought about the Steelers making a wide receiver trade, but I don't know if that was going to be biased by me. We're going to have the Chargers trading with the Seattle Seahawks here. Basically out of the first round. We can have pick 50 there, but the Chargers are going to be sending 22 to the Seattle Seahawks for DK Metcalf. Yeah, we are getting Justin Herbert, an elite wide receiver 1 with Ladd McConkey out there. We are getting him weapons to start airing it out again, and man, that would be fun. That really would be. So pick 22 for DK. I don't know if this would be similar to the A.J. Brown deal. Definitely more similar to the A.J. Brown Titans-Eagles deal than the Cardinals-Ravens Hollywood Brown deal. I would say that maybe it's going to cost you 22. And I don't know, we could throw in a future 2026 second rounder, because you do have to extend DK Metcalf. Like I said, it's just the idea of the Chargers trading for DK Metcalf. Don't look too much into the draft capital that I'm using in this deal. But yeah, that means the Seattle Seahawks are going to be on the clock yet again. I mean, this team could look to get a little bit younger with Emeka Egbuka. I mean, we've seen teams in the past, like the Tennessee Titans, trade their star receiver just to draft another receiver. But I'm going to have them look at edge rusher, get on that defensive line with Byron Murphy, and we're going to get Shamar Stewart to the Seattle Seahawks there at 22. You have JSN as your wide receiver 1. I still think Tyler Lockett can give you probably good enough wide receiver 3 production for this team. I think, yeah, you're going to maybe try to find your wide receiver 2. Maybe on day 2, maybe they end up drafting Emeka Egbuka instead if they didn't want to pay DK Metcalf. So sorry, Packers fans. I'm sure you probably wanted a trade for DK Metcalf, but I had him going to the Chargers. And honestly, with Emeka Egbuka on the board, I'm going to have him go to the Packers. So yeah, they're finally going to draft a first-round receiver. I wonder if they would be a reunion team for Devontae Adams. Probably not, because this Packers team is eventually going to get a little bit expensive with Love's contract kicking in and some other guys as well. But they also could have some money to kind of finagle the cap and get some things done. At 24, the Vikings need a corner, but I don't know if they would go Trey Amos. Maybe they would go Siobhan Ravel here with Morrison and Jahdae Barron both off the board. But with Aaron Jones being a free agent, I kind of want to Marion Hampton on this offense with JJ McCarthy. So yeah, I'm going to have my second running back go here in the first round. I don't know if I'll get a third one in here, but yeah, we're going to have a Marion Hampton go to the Minnesota Vikings there at 24. I think the Texans need to add offensive line help, but I don't know if there's a good enough talent here. I think I'm going to have them either go Walter Nolan or Matthew Golden. I mean, Matthew Golden's the fun pick here with Stephon Diggs tearing his ACL, Ty Dell being hurt, and you get some help with Nico Collins out there. But I think they can kind of figure it out as they go. And I'm going to have them go Walter Nolan, who I think is pretty good value at pick 25. So Broncos fans, I don't know if you'd be happy about getting Cooper Kupp and Colston Loveland in this draft. Yeah, we are getting the options for Bo Nix. I think there could be a running back in play. Maybe if Marion Hampton ended up making it to 26. I would have thought about him. Maybe, I don't know if I would take Cam Scatterbo in the first round, but I think you could try to find some hype in Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. I like him a ton, but I'm going to have them go Colston Loveland and get a big tight end option for Bo Nix. So you're going to leave this draft with Cooper Kupp and Colston Loveland. That's not too bad. That's not too bad whatsoever. So the Ravens at 27, I do like edge rusher. I mean, they could also look at Matthew Golden as well if you still view him as a first round talent. I don't know. Like, I don't think they would take a corner. I think I'm going to have them go, I think I'm going to have them go Josh Simmons here out of Ohio State. Just with Ronnie Staley becoming a free agent, I think we should try to invest in that just to keep protecting Lamar Jackson and maybe start telling Josh Simmons, yeah, don't be an eligible man downfield when Lamar is scrambling, because that tends to happen a lot. So here we go. We have another trade, and it's the Detroit Lions making a trade. I talked about them before, the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett is going to be going to the Detroit Lions in this mock draft. Yeah, I think there could be a lot of teams in play for Myles Garrett. I think the Washington Commanders could make a ton of sense. Maybe the Buffalo Bills would get involved as well, but we're going to have the Lions trade 28. We're going to have them trade, sure, their 2026 first rounder, 2026 second rounder, and maybe their second rounder this year as well. So 4 draft picks for Myles Garrett. We're going to force this trade, and the Browns are back on the clock. And earlier, we had the Browns trading down, and they ended up getting Will Campbell. So they are going to have, 2 first round picks in this draft, and then they're going to get, 3 first rounders next year from the Shedeur Sanders trade down and the trade down, or in the trade of Myles Garrett. So I don't know if this team would try to replace Myles Garrett. Maybe they'd go Nick Scorton. Maybe they would go Jack Sawyer. I don't mind them going receiver, but I think like Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy could be fine next year. So I think I'm going to have them go Siobhan Ravel. I like him a little bit more than Trey Amos. And we're going to have them get a corner and an offensive tackle in this draft. And my final trade, my 5th and final trade, I don't know what he would go for, because he had a down year this year. He's still on a massive deal, and I don't know if he's going to get traded. There's a chance he stays with the Miami Dolphins, but we are going to have the Washington Commanders get another deep threat for Jaden Daniels, and we are going to have Tyreek Hill go to the Washington Commanders just for pick 29. Like I said, I mean, Tyreek Hill getting up there in age. I'm not sure if he would go for 29. I'm not sure if it'd be for like 2 second rounders. Either way, just for fun, we're going to have this trade go through, and we're going to have the Miami Dolphins on the clock. They ended up taking Malachi Starks there at 13. They do have a ton of needs. We didn't have them take an offensive lineman before. Could we have them go receiver? Matthew Golden here to replace Tyreek Hill, and is a lot cheaper, and maybe they can invest a little bit more in offensive line in free agency if they made this trade beforehand. Either way, I'm going to have Matthew Golden go there to, I guess, replace Tyreek Hill in the long term, but I could definitely see them going a receiver, or excuse me, an offensive lineman there. So we're on the clock with the Bills at 30. I thought about them maybe making a trade for Myles Garrett, but they're still invested in that Von Miller contract. I don't know if they would operate that way, and I don't think they would take like an offensive tackle here. So I'm going to have them go probably the last first round corner, in my opinion, in Trey Amos. They're at 30. They do have some questions there, and they're trying to make up for the Kyrie Elam pick a couple years ago. The Kansas City Chiefs are probably going to lose Trey Smith in free agency, and I think they can look to add an offensive tackle. We got to protect Patrick Mahomes, who just got obliterated in the Super Bowl by the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think you're either looking at Ariante Ursary, you're looking at maybe Cam Williams, Gray Zabel, Wyatt Millum. I kind of like Ariante Ursary to go here. Just feels like a Chiefs pick at 31. And then what do the Eagles need? What do they need? They have everything right now. I mean, they might lose Zach Bond in free agency. So I kind of have him going a little bit lower, but that just feels, you know what? It's kind of perfect. It's kind of perfect. Maybe he goes higher. Like, I feel like Jalen Walker has an insane draft range as well. Like him, James Pierce, Malik Williams. Like, maybe there's a chance that, I don't know, Jalen Walker could go 8 to the Panthers. Maybe he ends up going a little bit earlier as well. Maybe he goes 15 to the Falcons. But I'm going to have this be like Nolan Smith 2.0, where he fell in that draft. And we're going to have them take Jalen Walker, who maybe he's going to have to replace Zach Bond if a team throws an absolute bag at him in free agency. So yeah, that is going to finish out my 2025 mock draft with trades. That was kind of fun. So we had the Raiders leapfrog the Giants to take Shedeur Sanders, the last maybe first round quarterback on the board, and then the Browns traded down. They ended up taking Will Campbell. Then we didn't have any trade till pick 20, where we had a swap between the Rams at 20 and the Broncos at 26, and that landed Cooper Kupp in Denver. We had the Chargers trade some noticeable draft capital for DK Metcalf. We also have the Browns trading away Myles Garrett to the Detroit Lions. I'm not sure if like they would trade him to a team picking 28. Like, I feel like they'd want one of these top end talent guys if they moved off of Myles Garrett. And then we also had the Washington Commanders trade for Tyreek Hill there at 29. So that's gonna be for me. That was really fun to do. I hope you guys did enjoy. And if you want to see maybe more mock drafts with trades, let me know by dropping a thumbs up. Let me know what you think about these picks or the trades down below. Do you think I was on the right track with some of these ideas, or do you think they're not gonna happen whatsoever? Let me know down below. Thank you again for 10,000 subscribers, and hit that subscribe button if you are not already as well. I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.